Sorry guys, David here with a new review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. My apologies if I'm a little out of it. It's probably because of my workout. I might have gone a little bit too intense in such a short amount of time. It usually does that. Or it could be because I'm still reeling from the effects of this little drug called Avengers Infinity War that I took last night. Oh my god, and I feel like I've taken a beating. So, going into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I thought, okay, please don't do anything heavy because there's only so much that my heart can take at this moment. And frankly, I feel like they did spare me from that in this week's episode, but I can't say 100% that that's a really great thing because option 2, which is this week's episode, was a little bit on the disappointing side because after last week's somewhat of a bombshell episode with that big, really brutal death at the end of Strucker by the hands of Ruby, and then Ruby herself getting killed by Yo-Yo, I thought to myself that entire ending and the kind of implications that it kind of brought up with Yo-Yo taking that drastic action was going to be kind of like the main backbone of this episode, where they're going to have this discussion. There might be like some kind of internal civil war-ish type of conflict within this team and who gets to decide to make the calls because Coulson's the one dying, but Daisy might be the successor, yada yada. Yeah, the argument was only like about the first 5 minutes of the episode, and then before you know it, Daisy's sent off into her own little mission apart from everything else that goes on at the base in this episode. And that to me was a straight up bummer because it was cool to see a couple of things. One, these characters kind of overlapping one another and realizing that, yeah, that was a drastic decision made last week. But also, it's kind of neat, and it's a little throwaway detail, but it's kind of neat that they're kind of reoccurringly hiring people from episode to episode. Not only the show hiring extras, but it's almost like the S.H.I.E.L.D. team is hiring extra hands to work on the base. People looking for work for the S.H.I.E.L.D. It's cool that we had that one guy say like, okay, is this normal? Is this typical for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? And the guy's like, the mission type, yeah, it's normal. The fighting, no, that's brand new. I like that little line. But besides that, it's really disappointing to see that this got exchanged for a basic bottle type plot with our team fending themselves off in the darkness against these, I don't want to say creatures, but at the same time I don't want to say people. Like, they're infused beings that are sent by that main bad guy that's been in cahoots with S.H.I.E.L.D. And I gotta be honest, it's I don't know what it was, but there was just something so generic about this guy, this main Candyman looking motherfucker. You know, he looked like Tony Todd. He straight up looked like a Tony Todd lookalike. And him sending these guys into the base, into the lighthouse to try to kill them is, I don't know, to me it just looked like such a vanilla threat that it didn't even feel like a threat at that point. And yeah, you know, they were trying to make some cool visuals with the darkness and have like this horror aesthetic, especially that one scene that I actually did appreciate, which is all of them huddled together in that main base center of the entire lighthouse, and the lights going out and them just hearing the noises from all different directions. So I'm like, okay, I can see how that would be a frightening situation. I love the camera work in that scene, but outside of that, I just thought the whole thing was just kind of basic, to the point where I retreated to my phone to check texts or something real quick. Like, I wasn't exactly deterred from the material that's going on here in the base, whether it be this stuff with the beings killing people, or whether it be with our characters having some conversations they might have had already, with Deke trying to protect Simmons and Fitz, or Yo-Yo once again having a conversation with Mac about the future and how, you know, I'm doing this for us. I'm like, okay, you know, I like the characters. And so I'm not driven to a point where I'm like, get on with this. I'm not grueling. I'm not wanting to gouge my eyes out at this point. But it is that type of material that's going to make for a less than memorable episode. And to add to that is the plot of these people going in and having kind of like a siege mission of them trying to make this one last stand, even though we kind of know that it's not a last stand. And I just didn't feel like the stakes were all that high, minus literally a couple of red shirts. So I was uber glad that, to me, my favorite aspect about this entire plot was Talbot, seeing him being very unstable and knowing whether or not he was going to snap or turn on the team or whatnot. And Agent Pastor really nailing with the performance. I really liked him because this is a character who wasn't just a loose gun. He had this tragic backstory with his family that I'm like, man, I'm captivated by you. Whether it be in a good one or a bad way, I'm captivated by you because I don't know if you're going to be able to help out or you're going to fuck everything up. And it's just like a guessing game with the entire thing. And he had me more on edge than these creature people did, or these super parkour people. I'll call them parkour people from now on. So it's cool to see that it was with him that the episode had its strongest twist, which is that Talbot ended up turning into Graviton. I thought that was actually a really bold move, not only the way it was visually presented with him walking out Terminator style, but they also cut away to that shot of Simmons looking at all the destruction. You see the box that has slime covering one side of the word, so the rest of it says Graviton. So I'm like, that's cool. You're not calling him Graviton, but you're clearly labeling him to some degree, and seeing him being able to use those powers to kind of deliver the same crushing blows that Ruby kind of did with Strucker last week. That was a really cool spectacle, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Coulson and the rest of the team is going to take this in after he makes that really grand entrance leading up to the skies. And also, I will admit that it was cool to punctuate this entire plot, both at the beginning and the end, with good old Patrick Warburton. It's nice to see him again. I guess on that note, let's talk about Daisy's side mission here. She literally went on a side quest, and the side quest was to do a little bit of investigating into figuring out how it's possible that maybe she can keep Coulson alive with the centipede serum from season 1. So it's cool to see that she gets provided this intel. It's a little weird that it's Jake Busey out of all people to give her that intel, but hey, this is the guy who says, hey, I'm the information guy, you can call me in any second. So they pulled him back out of wherever it is that they put him on the side with his glowing, enlarged, gargantuan teeth. And he provides a little nugget of information on top of that, and that is that there is a secret element that could be the secret ingredient to keeping Coulson alive amongst the centipede serum that can maybe even make him stronger, or could be used as a failsafe for when things go south. But out of all places, this ingredient was buried with her mother. So that little stinger at the end has me definitively curious, because not only is it a cool little thing to tag on that it's Jane's grave that holds this ingredient, but this also begs the question, how is she tied in to that element which was pretty researched by the Nazis? How does she figure it into play? But then comes in another question that I will try to be as vague as I possibly can, in the event that you have not in fact seen a little movie that came out this weekend called Avengers Infinity War. There's no significant tie to the movie just yet here within the universe of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Minus two. One, and this one might have been a little unintentional, but it's the choice to open this episode with the planets kind of zooming by, demonstrating the intergalactic travel of what tone they're striking here with season 5, with the space travel in the first half and then aliens coming to Earth here in the second half. It was a little surreal to see that being the opening of this episode, the opening shot of this episode, after having seen this fucking movie last night. On top of that, you do have Jake Busey's character have that one line where he says, you know all this weird stuff that's happening in New York? And he's like, no, I don't watch the news. And I'm like, okay, cool, you're acknowledging it. Still a little weird that maybe Coulson and the rest of the team weren't looking at something as big as what was happening in New York a second time. Man, good. Bad. I feel bad for New York. New York is fucked in superhero movies. But I do think it's a little strange that Coulson is not noticing this through the feeds because of how big and cataclysmic event as it is that we have in Infinity War, but it's a little neat to see that they're at least acknowledging it. Frankly, right when I finished the episode, I noticed that this was probably going to be a short-ish review because, again, it kind of, for the time being at least, sacrifice some interesting things and character dynamics that I was really looking forward to, especially after that big decision from last episode that could have caused some really hefty but really juicy friction, and interchange that with this plot that was just a basic siege, based on their siege type mission, and that made up for the bulk of the episode. So there was really not much more to kind of extrapolate from that, except for a couple of conversations and of course Daisy's side mission. Besides that, there could be the conversation to have about what Deke was proposing about multiple universes, and maybe that factoring in within the remaining 3 episodes of the season. But for the time being, option 2 is somewhat of a filler for some things that I'm still looking forward to. It's just that can't help but feel just a little disappointed with this week's episode. So I'm going to be giving option 2 a solid 7 out of 10. It was a good episode, still handled fairly well because of what the characters and the actors are able to bring to the table with a show like this. It's just that it feels like they took a script that was kind of like sitting on the back burner with prior seasons, maybe even during seasons 1 or 2, and they managed to fit that in here with season 5. Even if that may have not ended up being the case, it just kind of felt like it. So, please post your comments down below what you guys think of the latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Do you think in some way or fashion the events of Infinity War are going to tie in here with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now that they did have at least that one line acknowledging said events? And do you think that that's going to tie in with the final episode, which is properly titled The End? Post your insights in the comments below. Make sure you hit the like and share button. Of course, do not forget to subscribe, as always. See you guys later, and take care. Some person just made off with somebody's purse and you gotta go catch them, and it's a little bit time sensitive, but at least it gets the urgent feeling of being a superhero where you have to go take care of this random crime because random crime happens, and they put it here in this game. And then some fucking kid loses his balloon.
Be good now. What do we say?
I'll never let my balloony go again.
You were supposed to say thank you, you little shit. God damn it. He just abandoned his child.